So hi there, I've had a few people asking me for some assistance in setting up their Z6s and 7s. So I thought I'd take this opportunity while we're doing the live streaming thing from home to walk you through a couple of the features, the cool features on the Z6 and how to set them up, and also give you a little bit of an update on the developments with the live streaming capability. So here goes. So at home here I have two Z6s set up. I have one Z6 set up here with a direct USB-C connection, following that down to the Mac, and there it is there. The other one is set up through a Camlink 4K HDMI converter. I've simply got that plugged in to a HDMI standard to HDMI mini into the camera, and then at the other end adapted through the USB into a USB 3 port into the Mac. Now, one of the things to note, very important, I made the mistake of updating my operating system to OS Catalina, and unfortunately this does not work with the Camlink Elgato HDMI adapter just yet. So don't update to Mac OS Catalina. It does work on Mojave though. The 4K Camlink HDMI converter actually allows you to see the information, the shooting data inside your camera. So as you can see, if I switch to the Z6 that has connected to the Camlink device, you can see all the shooting information inside the camera. So you can see your shutter speed, which I'm changing live. You can see your aperture. I can change my ISOs, and you can see the exposure in real time. Additionally though, you've got access to your menu options. So there's lots of really cool things that you can do if you're like me and you're needing to show how to use or set up your camera equipment. The HDMI adapter actually allows you to draw the feed of all the settings in your camera into the feed. So this is really great when we're wanting to be able to help our photographers set up their cameras or troubleshoot some of their settings remotely. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to set up your autofocus for face detect and eye detect. We also have pet eye detect. So to set up your autofocus, scroll down to the pencil menu, custom settings, up to A, autofocus, and select Auto Area AF/Eye Detection, A4. Go into that and choose Face and Eye Detection On. If you're doing pet photography, you want to choose Animal Detection. Comes up with a little cat icon. We're not doing pet detection right now, so I'm going to put it back to Face and Eye Detection On. So now that I've turned on the face detection, you'll see that a little square pops up over my head. This is telling me that it's detected my face. Now if we have more than one person in the frame, you'll actually get two boxes or two squares around their head. If I move in really close to the camera, quite scary for all of you, sorry about that, you'll see that the eye detect now comes up. So the box gets a lot smaller and it will actually track which eye is closest to the camera. Again, if there's more than one person in the frame, it'll actually show eyes over each of those people and you can toggle across to them. In video, you can adjust the speed at which the focus pulls from one point to another, which is really handy for video. I'm going to show you how to do that now. So in your camera menu, you want to scroll down to G, movie mode. And in the movie mode, scroll right down to G4, AF speed. Now if you want the camera to focus very quickly from one point to the next, choose faster. If you want it to be a little bit slower in its transition from the first point to the second, then you'd slow it right down. For the purpose of this demonstration, I've chosen faster, and also you can fix your AF tracking sensitivity, which again, pencil menu, G movie, G5 AF tracking sensitivity. Now I've got my camera set to high sensitivity and fast tracking. So you'll see the camera very quickly goes to my hand, back to my face, to my hand, back to my face, but you can control the speed at which your autofocus system transitions from one point to the next by adjusting those settings. Another really cool feature is what's called focus peaking. Now I'm going to show you how you set up focus peaking. So press your menu button again to the pencil menu and go down to D, Shooting and Display. And you want to look for D10, Peaking Highlights. So you can choose your color and your sensitivity. Simply switch my lens over to manual. You'll see the red highlight appear on the areas of my subject where it is in focus. Though this is particularly handy for very detailed macro shots like what we're doing here. And you can very quickly see what parts of my subject are in focus. Now, with the pink flower, I would suggest that we actually change that color of the focus peaking to a different color. And to do that, I simply go down to my eye menu and choose a different color. And for this example, I might choose blue. So focus peaking is a really handy tool when you haven't got a lot of definition, or perhaps when you're doing a lot of macro close-up stuff and you want to be able to tell exactly where on your subject is in focus. And here you can see the blue highlighting on the green, whatever that thing is, and the pink flower, and a little bit also on the pear stem. One of the really cool things that Nikon has done is they've included a new eye button. So in the eye menu, you can set features that you use all the time to quick shortcut buttons. For example, in here, I've set our focus options. So we've got wide area large, wide area small, dynamic area AF, and single point. And then we've got auto area AF, which will do your face tracking. In here, continuous shooting, single focus, or manual focus. So AFC, continuous focus, AFS, or manual. There's other cool things like highlight peaking that I showed you before. So instead of having to go all the way through the camera menu like this, finding your custom settings menu, finding your shooting and display, and scrolling down to find your peaking highlights, we can simply set this within our eye menu so it's really quick to find and to change. So again, if I wanted to change this to another color really quickly, like yellow, I can just do that in there. And then by switching over to manual, you can now see different areas of the flower, my subject highlighted that shows me where it's in focus. So very cool functionality. The eye menu also allows us to do things like silent photography. So if you shoot horse races, if you photograph horses in the morning, or funerals, or anything where perhaps a bird watcher, the bird photographers would love this feature, you can turn silent photography on just by setting it really quickly in your eye menu. There's a lot of functions here, but one that I would very much recommend for anyone that shoots in a studio environment with studio lights, I would have your live exposure preview session here. Now, if I turn my live exposure preview on, as I showed you before, you'll be able to see my exposure changing live. But when we're shooting with studio lights, the Nikon camera doesn't know what the exposure of those external flashes will be. So you need to turn your live exposure preview off so that your image is not dark and that you're able to focus on your subject. Now you'll see that if I change my metering, the exposure isn't changing. So this is what you do if you're shooting with studio lighting. If you're using a Nikon speed light, not a problem whatsoever. The metering in that will be fine and you can use your live exposure preview. So I've just turned that back on and now you can see that my exposure is changing live. I'm going to flick that back to manual. Another really cool thing to put in your eye menu is your white balance. So in here we can see how warm, what kind of color hue we're going to get from our white balance. The Nikon Z gives you an eye menu for your still shooting and a separate eye menu bank for your video shooting. Now to set something to your eye menu, all you do is press your menu button, scroll up to the pencil or custom setting menu, scroll down to F, controls, and this is for your stills shooting menu. Customize eye menu, F1, and then you locate the space that you want your feature to appear in. And then scroll through your menu and choose the feature that you want to place into your eye menu. Now I use the wireless transfer using Nikon Snapbridge and the wireless transmitter utility quite a lot. So in here I set my quick shortcut to set up and establish my Wi-Fi connection. Now I go to the Wi-Fi settings on my mobile and I select the Nikon Z with the matching serial number. And then once that has connected and it gives me the tick, I then look for Nikon Snapbridge. And there's all the photos I've taken from this camera and I can download those. There's some photos that we just took. And to download that, I select download. I can choose 2 megapixel or the original format. I'm going to just say 2 meg because that's completely fine. And then now that image will appear in my photo reel. And there it is. The Nikon Z's eye menu can be customized for video and also for stills. Now when you're shooting in video, you still have access to all the functions on the back of the screen. So I'm using my second Z6 to film the back screen of the other Nikon Z because when you're in video mode, you don't want any of this data that appears on the screen to be recorded to your video footage, but you still have access to all of the items that we've set up in the eye menu. For example, frame rate and resolution. So we can set our frame rate and our resolution at the touch of a button by using that quick shortcut feature in the eye menu. When you're shooting video, it is very important that you turn your active delighting on. Active delighting makes sure that you don't clip your shadows or your highlights. So it's a way of ensuring that you don't lose any details in your video. For shooting stills, you might want to use a portrait profile. But for video, you want your profile quite often to be a flat or a custom profile, so you can very quickly set those features within the camera. Also, you'll notice here that we've got autofocus, follow focus. So in traditional stills, you've got AFC, so autofocus once, single shot, and autofocus continuous, where the focusing system is constantly focusing. But for video, we call it AFF, or autofocus, follow focus. We also have manual focus, and you can very easily select it by assigning it to one of the preset positions within the eye menu of the video settings. In the video settings, I like to set here my image stabilization or vibration reduction and turn that on. And here's a little demonstration with Luca of what that looks like. So I've got the video set to 1080p, 25 frames a second at 100th of a second shutter speed, and I'm hand holding the camera, and it's really tracking him very, very nicely, and you can see there's not very much movement in here at all, even in the handheld. It's really great autofocus and it's really good image stabilization. When you're shooting video, particularly if you're recording an interview and there might be a bit of ambient sound, it's a great idea to start at a fixed audio point, perhaps 12 or 13. If you're wanting to do an environmental track or an ambient track, it's absolutely fine to switch your audio to auto. But for any interviews you're doing, I recommend that you put your audio on a fixed position starting at around 12 or 13. And what you want to make sure is that the audio levels never go into the red like this. You can see when I clapped that the sound levels went right up to red. But at the moment while I'm speaking, we're just touching on the yellow slightly, so we could probably put that up to 13. And you can see now that we're getting a bit more of the yellow popping into the recording, which is ideal. You can set any video features you want to access quickly to the I menu for video settings. And to do that, we simply set up your custom settings. So to set a feature to the I menu for video, all you do is scroll to the pencil menu, custom settings, scroll across to G, movie, and across again to G1, customize I menu. Now look for the position that you want the feature to be assigned to, press OK, and then scroll to the feature that you would like displayed. And select Done. There's a little example of how the follow focus works for video and how to set up your I menu for quick shortcuts to your video settings. So all of these recordings have been done on either the Z6 or the Z7, and you can see the video capability is fantastic. I've also taken the Z6 and 7 on a whole bunch of different holidays, and they really are fantastic systems. Built-in Wi-Fi, great focus, beautiful colour, lots of options, but they're also really small and portable. So here's a couple of examples of some still images I've taken from trips to Egypt last year and New Zealand. I hope you enjoy these, and I look forward to seeing what you produce with your Zs. Thank you. Well, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, julie.kimpton@nikon.com, or send me some comments on the feed. Hope you have a lovely weekend from both of us. Thank you, Buddy, for being such a great model.